Hello, everybody. Welcome to Amon's Bogus Hangout. We're getting a late start today. Apologize. And have our guests introduce themselves, and I think a few more may show up. Thomas, will you introduce
Hi.
yourself?
Tom Zickel, founder of Blueprint Marketing and sitter on the board of a few companies.
And Terry?
Terry Van Horn. I don't know what I do. Drive people crazy.
You don't know what you do.
Well, I'm pretty good at driving people crazy.
Some days you don't have to be too good at it. It just happens.
Yep. That's a good day.
So you guys think Australia is going to have Google for much longer? Or do you think, remember when they made that threat that they would actually take away the services for all of Australia?
I don't think Google wants that to happen.
I think they said something along those lines. I'll try to find the post, put it on Twitter later, but something along the lines of like we might be removed. I was obviously an empty threat, but when I see what the new news about that Terry posted about Google Analytics being illegal because it exposes European.
Google Analytics isn't illegal. Where they are located is illegal.
Do you remember when the news agencies in Europe decided they wanted to start charging Google to post headlines of news? And Google said, fine, we'll just stop showing Google News in Europe.
Yep. Yeah,
and they were serious.
Well, it's all about, look, I think the tech industry told them look, you have to do this because we can't compete with them. Like, basically, if you're hosted in the United States, you're breaking the law in Europe.
Well, I was thinking about the last time I went to the newsstand. Oh, wait, that wasn't me.
Right.
There aren't any newsstands left.
There's some circumstances where you can be lawfully hosted in the U.S., but yeah, it's a nightmare.
No, because the law in the U.S. says anything that's on a server, there's agencies of the U.S. government that can force people to show you, to give that information up. That's against the law in the EU.
Oh, so the content can't be... Okay, I was thinking reverse proxies.
If it's anything in the U.S., you're screwed.
Makes sense.
To me, it's just a way to force people to host in Europe as well.
Yeah, I guess in the hosting industry in Europe is a good idea right now then.
Well, it's crappy service.
They're
like way behind the times as far as infrastructure.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, but
that's how they're going to pay for it.
Yeah.
These laws, they never make laws because it's good for the people. They're indirectly taxing Google.
They just don't want the NSA to be able to look at all the...
Look, you know what they're going to get? At best, they get an IP address. Like how good, what's the value of an IP address? It's valuable if they're doing something bad, but if you're doing something good or normal, there's no reason.
I'm not sure what your argument even is. What are you saying?
Well, I'm saying it's a
people
stupid
can't
law.
see the news.
Huh?
People can't see the news.
Oh no, it goes beyond the news is old story. Basically, any company in Europe, right, that is using Google Analytics, if your users are European, you can't use Google Analytics. It's against the law.
Jeez.
That's the new law they've come up with, Bill.
That's crazy. I feel bad for them.
And now they've got another consumer rights thing, which is why Google's clamping down on all the reviews.
So what about U.S.? What about companies based in the United States and in Europe, or if they have an office in both countries?
If you're based in the United States and you get European visitors, you're subject to that law.
You can't use GA. So everyone that has a
GDPR,
anyone from the European Union or come to their site,
they think they can police the freaking internet.
That's insane.
It's like only could be hatched in Europe.
And Australia, it's basically the same rules.
Australia's doing the same thing, but these are all places where the tech industry cannot compete, and this is how they're trying to fucking level the playing field. That's the way I see it. Like, the information that they're protecting is an IP address, basically, and the sites that you went to from that IP address.
Yeah.
Like, like, what good is that to somebody? Not much.
No, considering Google browsers are being used, they know everything anyway.
Well, there you go. So next they'll fucking outlaw the browser as well.
Yeah, no Chrome browser.
Like, it's just stupid stuff. It's laws that are like stupid, and then they try and apply them to the whole world.
Yeah, it's bad for users, to be honest. It's bad for businesses.
Well, it's basically breaking the internet. That's not the way the internet is supposed to work, period.
Agreed.
And they say it's to protect users' data, but what are they protecting? Like,
nothing. Yeah,
not
keeping
much,
Google from seeing their analytics.
Address. And you know what? That's all the government wants is the IP address, because if they're doing something bad, they want to be able to.
Most governments can find that stuff pretty quickly. Like, they can figure out where you're hosted, your IP, your stack, all that stuff. I mean, if I can get that data, they can get it.
Yeah, but if they're tracking Al Qaeda or something, right?
Yeah, that's something.
That's why the law was in the United States was introduced.
So tracking Al Qaeda how would they track it with Google Analytics?
It's not Google Analytics. This is how stupid the law is.
Oh, okay.
It's to track Al Qaeda online.
Oh.
At the time when the law was passed, it was to basically fight terrorism. I guess the EU doesn't care about terrorism. They just, let them shoot them up and, all the other nonsense.
At the time, most government politicians have no idea what technology even does.
Yeah, still today, that's still very true. You watch Congress.
They never understand. But at least the Americans try and keep hands off, whereas in EU they're trying to basically dictate how the internet is. It's crazy. It's stupid.
Yeah, I always thought it was funny when they banned certain searches or the way Google collects data. But Google uses 8.8.8 for everything as their reclusive DNS and caches everything that goes through. It's like, you didn't ban that too. It's a clone of everything.
What right do they have to tell me what I do with data in my country? Like, what right do they have to do that? I'm not even subject to their laws.
Right. No, they don't have a right.
And that's what they're doing. The same thing with the GDPR.
If you're licensed to do business in one of those countries, then you're subject to your business is subject to their laws. So that's the.
Everyone else could laugh at them, but if you're European, that means you can't host in the United States, which means that if you're hosting in the US, because that's where you get most of your customers, and it makes sense to host there, you can't.
Yeah, I've got to tell.
You still have to, on them old systems in Europe.
I've got to tell a few clients about that, because they're not going to be happy to hear that they have to move.
Well, most people see user data and think, oh, they're getting names and all your data, and all they're getting is an IP and the website you've been to at the very most.
So what if you use a reverse proxy? A third of the web is now covered by reverse proxies like Cloudflare and Fastly and operations like that. So if you have a IP that's changing for the country that
the U.S. government goes to Cloudflare and say, yeah, we want everything you got on this guy.
But the European government,
have to up it. No questions asked.
Would they consider that site then hosted in the United States, or it's just where the origin server
are the servers in the United States? It's not hosting. It's where are the servers located? That's
they'd be able to mask that pretty easily with a reverse proxy. But Yeah, I guess if they did a
So
if they
Google has
subpoenaed them-
servers in Europe. All they really have to do is switch all their European data to a data center in Europe, and it's fixed. But
Okay.
they're not going to spend it. You're talking a lot of money to do that. It's not like
huge.
flipping a switch and everything goes over there.
A
Doesn't
lot of
work
infrastructure to be built. Yeah, Europe, like you said, Europe's infrastructure for hosting is horrific.
and for a big company, right? A major company, worldwide company, like say Nike or something, they want hosting all over the world,
Yep.
right? So they can basically serve stuff faster and not overwhelm one server.
Right. They want the origins to be basically pops everywhere, all over
Right.
in every country they can get into.
Load balance.
So they can have customers everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah,
Exactly.
well, it helps with load balancing too, which means it'll load faster if it's closer by, right?
Yeah.
Right,
When's the
so-
last time you were on a mirrored website?
I use them all the
You
time.
probably wouldn't know unless you were. I was going to name a company that I know where you could be on a mirror, but I'll keep that to myself.
You're talking about one that's in Europe and the US, or you're talking about one that has an origin?
That's not
in-
mirroring. That's
You're talking
domain
two servers in at the same data center in the
That's-
US.
balancing. Mirrored sites is when you're hosting two exact same sites on different servers.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you're
so-
not load balancing, you're cheating with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not doing much right by doing that.
But big companies load balance because it doesn't, make
No,
sense to have
Mirrors.
all your traffic coming to one server.
Right,
That's
you don't wanna
probably what
overwhelm
killed
the origin.
Walmart every Christmas was they weren't load balancing. Like in their case, they should have servers spread out all across the United States and
Couldn't agree
Canada.
more. This will make an interesting case because this is another thing that happens with these shields or proxy origins that Cloudflare, Fastly, Akamai, all these companies have. They have them all over the world. So Akamai has 2,000 pops. If they could have them in Europe, they could have them in the United States, and they clone your origin server there, so it's on the content delivery network, so it's faster. So they don't have to go back. They pull from your origin every few minutes, but they basically keep a clone of it somewhere on a data center, in a data center near their most active users, and it moves around.
That's just load balancing.
Yeah, it's their way of load balancing. It is load balancing, but it's doing it without the ability to add another. You don't have to add another origin. Like you don't have to put another server in Europe to have the same speed in Europe.
Well, with on Azure, I could add listening points that served in those countries.
Yep.
You just opened up another virtual machine on a server in that country.
Yep.
It was
Yeah,
that simple.
That works too. Yeah. No, that's definitely a very common way, and it's a smart way of doing it because if one goes down, it can carry the weight of the rest.
Well, you have that, but you also can load balance too.
Yep.
Same way, right? And have listening points, but only have to maintain one website. Remember,
Exactly.
the other way you're maintaining on several web servers.
Yep.
This way you're just on one code base, right? And you're just good to go.
Yep. No, I agree
We used
completely.
to call those listening points, basically, where they listened and served the stuff there.
Yeah, I think that's what we're talking about is a shield or an origin on a pop, a super pop shield. Basically just a clone of the website.
That's getting a little bit, I know a bit about that stuff. My brother does all that.
Because a listening
better
node
add
sounds
it.
like a listening node is Microsoft's term for a shield. So yeah, they all call them something else, but yeah.
I hate this configuration in StreamYard. It's hard to get into the middle of the.
Oh, I know. I'm always jumping around too. I always go the wrong way.
What do you think, Bill?
What do I think about what?
Oh no, you ready to move on? You look at.
So, taking a peek at the news today, which I didn't get a chance to do because I get caught up in writing a blog post.
In what?
Writing a blog post.
Oh, well, that's always a good thing.
I saw someone asking in Twitter today if Google was always updating on a Friday, and I was like, "Oh, you got a good answer, Bill."
Google updates 5 times, 10 times a day.
Yeah,
They do little mini updates. They do updates you've never heard of and don't never give a name.
Yeah.
Yep.
But here's something that I've been thinking about for a while. These Friday things that Barry keeps reporting, that's been going on for, well, probably at least 4 months.
And they'll do a test with millions of users before they do one of those updates. And they won't roll it back.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think they're running tests on the weekend, right, as well. And they're different kind of tests that make things fluctuate more.
And if they run a update on a Friday and it happens on Saturday and Sunday, they're not going to stop and say, it's the weekend, we've got to stop because somebody might get affected by this.
Well, the thing is, none of them are verified, which tells me they aren't updates. They're tests or some kind of
they're changes to search. They're updates.
Right. They're changes to search because it could be even.
There are changes to search that aren't something they're going to retract.
Right.
And they're not going to say, we're not going to make this change to search because tomorrow is Friday or tomorrow is Saturday.
But they may, like those things, when they do things, right? Like when you're in a big environment like that.
Yeah.
There's a schedule for when work is done. I'm sure of it.
Yeah.
Right. Someone doesn't randomly say, oh, let's do this today. No, there's a big plan and they know, okay, on Friday and Saturday, we'll run this. And here's my logic on why Friday and the weekend.
Well, the way these updates work is they've got one big red button. They push the button, update's done.
Okay. But I'm saying they do it on the weekend because if there's any problems, there's less going on. Just like when I migrate a website, I'll generally do it on the weekend in the evening where it'll affect the traffic the least. That makes sense. You don't try and do it when it's busy. You try and do it when it's a little slower.
Yeah, but
when the airplane's flying up ahead 500 miles an hour, you don't stop the plane and change the engine. You change it live. That's the way Google works. It changes the engine live.
That could be when they run some sort of refresh program too that adds in machine learning or something. Who knows?
You understand how federated learning works at Google, right?
Pardon me?
You understand how federated learning works at Google, right?
No, that's a new one on me.
Okay, they've blogged about it, the Google blog, a couple times. So your mobile device, your phone or whatever, collects information every day and sends it to Google once a day and receives new information from Google at the end of the day after Google's done analyzing it. So Google understands how people search, what their patterns are, what language you use, what canonical query terms are.
Right.
Because of how people search. And that's what federated machine learning is. Google's collecting the individual data, aggregating it, learning from it, and then sending updates to everybody on how search works.
So you're saying it's going on an ongoing battle. It's not, as an ongoing thing, it's not a refresh.
It's not a refresh. It's not a, let's stop the plane. Let's stop the search engine. Let's not do these updates. It's Saturday. It's Friday.
Yeah, no. They're too big.
They get 60,000, 90,000 employees.
I don't think they could even coordinate that if they wanted to. Like, there's just too many things going on at once. it wouldn't be efficient to coordinate it that way. Like I understand. Like I think that for them, the weekends might even be a peak time for certain things. They're in everything. So I don't know that it would help. Like I don't know that it would help Google at all.
So the patent I'm blogging about today is about modified search results. And you know when a modified search result happens? When either Google decides a query is misspelled or decides it wants to provide a synonym instead of the query, like in RankBrain or Hummingbird, or 5 dozen other ways of providing synonyms. Take the term translated from English into French and then translate it back from French into English. If it comes up with 2 results when you translate it back, those are synonyms for each other.
Yeah.
So Google does a lot of rewriting of query results. They're not LSI keywords.
There is a slight correlation with the weekends and these flux trackers, but that's it. It's nothing really special.
Well, how many people take Christmas off? How many people take
everyone? Pretty much.
Martin Luther King's Day off?
Not out of disrespect, but I think that that's less likely. But a lot of people do. Federal holiday.
There's nobody in the world ever anywhere who works Monday through Friday, and that's it. Weekend off.
Bankers.
There are a lot of people who work weekends, Saturdays and Sundays. I worked in restaurants. I know this for a fact.
Oh yeah, no, most of the world. I was just thinking bankers' hours. Yeah, no, you're right.
Yeah, I mean, if Chinese restaurants weren't open on weekends, where would people go to eat on Christmas?
Or on Christmas, yeah. Exactly. It's there's always, especially a large. If you look at a company the size of Google or any of these big companies, there's a million jobs that have to be fulfilled on the weekend. That makes complete sense.
Well, there's definitely a trend. It's constant.
People still search on Saturdays and Sundays.
Yeah, but in less volume.
You know how much less, roughly?
I've never seen a website yet that didn't get a lot less traffic on the weekend than it did through the week.
I've seen some for that have to do with debt, and they get more on the weekend sometimes.
But they're not even open to arrange a loan on the weekend.
No, they're open.
Oh, right. The United States. Okay. Banks are open in
it's not a bank. I'm trying to think of how to say it without saying anything that would break confidentiality. Like it's to help people with finance, I guess the best.
Banks are open in the U.S. too on weekends,
but not like a traditional bank. Yeah, even some banks are open on Saturdays now.
I mean, I've made deposits on Saturdays at a bank. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I think PNC started opening. I don't quote me on this, but I believe PNC is open on Saturday. I know some of the big banks tried to do that a long time ago as a way to get more people in the door.
Well, up until about 30 years ago in Toronto, it was illegal for any business to be open on Sunday.
Sunday, yeah, I don't see a lot of banks open on Sunday, but Saturday.
And most places have blue laws still. Movie theaters can't open until after 12 p.m. or 12 noon on Sunday. Yeah.
There you go.
Because you can't show a movie during church hours.
You also can't buy alcohol. It's a travesty. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, no, there's quite a few laws around Sunday, and yeah, it's bizarre. They're sort of outdated today. We're very outdated today.
But businesses are still open.
Yep, businesses are still open. Most businesses.
I mean, restaurants, stores, shopping malls.
Oh yeah, you got to eat. You got to, yeah. It's big business. After church, people go to eat. That's a big.
Oh yeah.
But it's yeah. So in Canada, their hours are not as sensitive to Sundays, I guess. Most stores
Where
in Canada.
used to be just in Ontario. That we had conservative governments for years.
Yeah. I have a client in Toronto that they are closed on Mondays, and I was like, that's so strange, but that would, so but they're also closed Saturday, Sunday, Monday. So
I worked in Havre de Grace, Maryland. We had lots of stores, lots of shops that were closed on Mondays too, because they would be busy on weekends. They would take Monday off.
Yep.
Some products, Monday's a day you can take off better than Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
You guys think there's any correlation with Google searches and the market doing well or bad? Like, we've been on an uptick for so long that now that we're starting to.
No, you can thank the central bank for that.
Well, yeah, no, but it seems like today might be the start of the downward spiral. But I'm not saying, I don't want to get too predictive because it's only been a day, but people are, it's a lot of chatter. And I wonder if there's a correlation between more internet use or less internet use with a good
Probably
economy.
is more of a correlation between Reddit and the stock. No, seriously. All that game stop and
The meme,
Discovery,
the apes and the meme
where
guys.
they call them meme stocks, right?
Yeah.
That was all Reddit. Some guy wrote a post on Reddit, and
Wall Street bets, yeah. All
every
that
idiot with $2 went and bought the stock.
They did, yeah. They
went up to 200. Now it's like half that now.
Yeah.
On its way back to $2, probably.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't see a future for AMC or GameStop personally.
Yeah, not to,
no
the
insulting
whole
to
thing
movie
is
theaters or
game. Like, only an idiot allows a broker to decide the price you're going to pay for a stock. I have never put in an order like that. You may get it for free, but you'll pay more money for it. I always get a limit where you tell it, this is the price I want it. If it's not at that price, I don't want
yeah,
it.
that's much better. Yeah, than do a market order. Do a limit
selling
order.
at the market is
you get screwed either way.
That's an amateur's game for sure.
Yeah. It's how they set it up by default on most apps too.
But that's the whole thing behind Robinhood is you get free transactions, but you're taking it at the market price, and they're making money off the difference between. Yeah,
because
there's always someone making a buck when it's Wall Street. You can be guaranteed of that. There are definitely no free lunches there.
Yeah, I think on Robinhood now they can set it to have limit orders, but I don't believe most of their users have any idea how to do that.
No, why would you use that for a limit order when you can do it at a bank or someplace that has a lot of business itself already?
Robinhood just made a breakthrough of having people you can actually call on the phone if you need support. That was their big.
Well, they're going to keep expanding it so they can make more money off it. Like anybody who thought they were nice guys and doing things for free are just.
Oh no,
They
Schwab
haven't realized what the world is really like.
Schwab came up with the whole free trading idea, but you're exactly right. Yeah, no one's doing it out of the kindness of their
Again,
heart.
check and see how you're getting it for free. You're probably doing the same thing that.
Oh, there's tons of money to be made on the inside of the trade. Tons of money. It's a gold mine.
Way, that's not what we're here to talk about. So
yeah. If I were,
I was interested. Did you read the thing about John saying fluff on the internet or in content, fluff content, where you're going to Wikipedia and just grabbing stuff that's published all over the place and putting it on a page?
Oh, people grabbing like little bits from what they think are authoritative sources.
Linked to it. It reminded me again of that author's patent that you wrote a while back, where they know who wrote the original thing and what the original concept was. And if you're just republishing that concept, well, don't expect a lot of value.
My content spinner is not going to work.
No. However, that worked for a really long time because I was working for a search engine. I wrote about it there in the notes quite a while back. Basically, we went all over the place collecting data. I didn't take it verbatim, but every once in a while, a sentence or two would pass through, and I get a letter from a Wikipedia guy saying, "Hey, you have to link to us. You use some of our content." And I tell him, "No, I'll put a thing that says you were used as a reference. I'm not going to link to you because there are two sentences that are the same as, on a whole page." So, we rewrote everything, and then I collected data from census. Now they're doing it all in-house by just going and getting data from the data centers. I'm pretty sure that's what it looked like they're doing now. That was the biggest job I ever did, hundreds of thousands of pages.
That's a lot of work, yeah.
Well, I had to manage the content and get it all written and then figure out, the topics and how to, it was fun, but I did really well ranking wise.
So Google's saying don't use commas, brackets, or non-standard URLs, things in URLs with faceted navigation.
The only thing that doesn't break in is Ajax.
Yeah, the hash bangs and stuff.
Yeah, the pounds and all that other crap. Like, every language has built-in URL encoding. Use it.
Yeah.
Then you don't get problems like that. Like when Twitter first came out and it had the hash bang in the address, that was a big problem for Google.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it was indexing up to the hash bang and then stopping.
Well, for a while, yeah. And then they worked something out with Twitter and all of a sudden the hash bang's gone, eh?
Yep. Yeah, no. And I mean, thank goodness though, because who wants to type a hash bang into a Twitter? If you're typing in Twitter
that's coders who don't really understand the internet. That breaks a URL string, like
really quickly. Yeah.
Well, it's characters that they don't know what to do with it.
Right. Like I've seen URLs with space. I've seen so many weird things across along this. I'm sure you guys have seen.
In URL encoding, that hash bang is translated into something else.
Yeah. Just like a space is like a 20, I think. But it makes sense for faceted nav because they're, trying to, you also have to most of the time with faceted nav, it's smart to put into Search Console and make sure that it's all identical so that Google can block the indexing of your faceted navigation. But they're probably trying to figure out a little bit about what the faceted navigation represents. Possibly. Probably not.
Well, it's just lazy programming.
Yeah. Because they linked to a blog post in 2014. So People have had a while to do that, I guess.
I remember when they started complaining about that.
I think they're going to come for the query strings next. Like people that have sites set up where they could use a static URL, but they just use a query string for everything. It's not my favorite way of building a website, but people do it.
That was in the old, but if they don't support query strings and a website is using a query string, it screws up their crawling and indexing.
Oh, I agree. It doesn't get indexed
all the pages that they should.
Right.
They're only getting the root page, right? Not any of the pages that use the parameters.
I just had an argument this week with a developer who was working on rebuilding a site that had all query strings as pages. And I'm like, there's 6 pages on the site that actually get 94% of the traffic. None of them have query strings in them. Isn't that amazing? And the content is almost identical, not identical content, but it's just as good on all these other pages. Let's try making static pages out of them.
I built a shopping cart back in the early 2000s that had no query strings at all. I rewrote everything. And as soon as, for Google, I left the query strings in for normal users. But if Google came, I removed the parameters and did some other fancy stuff.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Like no index and no follow the parameters and put them into Google Search Console is my best way on faceted nav.
Well, the best way is to keep all that stuff internally on your own database and then pull it out of the database. Don't use cookies, right? Don't use all those other means.
Yeah.
Use the database, and then when someone purchases, then you can revert to the query strings, and it keeps your shopping cart
clean.
safe.
Yeah, you're right.
That was challenging back in the days. That was when you had to do it because some search engines couldn't even follow pages with parameters.
Yeah, I remember some people trying to switch parameters up with a hashtag, thinking that it would be better, and Google just stop.
Yeah, because it doesn't understand that.
Yeah, there's it's been so indexing now is now working on Google.
I believe so. Yeah. No.
No, I hope so. I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Well, to me, I just don't get that. I don't. To me, it's a solution looking for a problem.
I could see if you're migrating a site or something like that, it'd be helpful.
Sorry.
Like if you could submit all the redirects as well, that would be cool. But you
What
can
I
already do that.
Is if your server can handle it and Google comes to a freshly migrated site, they'll hit every page they can until it starts to hurt your site performance.
Yep.
It'll violate politeness protocols?
Pardon me?
It'll violate politeness protocols?
No, I didn't say that. I said it will hit as many pages as it can. So wait 15 seconds, get another one, and just keep following pages on your website with waiting for the appropriate amount of time.
So it won't violate politeness. It won't violate politeness protocols. Yeah.
Won't hammer your server, but it will politely go through and gather as many of those URLs as it can for indexing, right?
Especially
if it's
the server.
Oh, these are new URLs.
Yeah.
It'll gobble them up like
Pac-Man.
Yeah, well,
better yet, if you're migrating the site, actually tell Google that if you've made URL changes, make sure you tell them that you've made the changes in Search Console.
You can, like to me, just submit a sitemap in Google within a few days will hit all those.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like you're going to wait a month for them to come and hit your queued sitemap. I used to submit every month to make sure that it was up to date. And I also, if there was bad URLs in there, I'd clean them out. Like, to me, that's a monthly job that I charge clients to do because I thought it was
404s and stuff.
Well, if you keep a nice clean file like that, in my experience, Google will pick up more of your content.
Absolutely, yeah. More crawl budget.
Yeah, because you're not making things hard to figure out. It's really easy to figure out.
I agree with that completely. Yeah.
I've seen as high as 87, 90% of what I submit got indexed. And it starts a lot lower than that before I start regularly updating the file and making the maintenance changes in the Search Console, right? So if I see a bad URL there, I make sure it's out of the sitemap, that sort of thing, right?
No, that yeah. If you have a redirect that's in the sitemap or whatever else has happened, yeah.
Used to find that, yeah, and in the past when clients were doing a lot of the writing, they would use titles and stuff that would break Google's thing. They used to have HTML errors on what did they call them, Bill? Where they listed where you had duplicate titles and duplicate meta tags, that sort of thing. Remember that report? It's not there anymore, I don't think.
In Search Console? Or
Webmaster Tools. It was back a few years ago when those reports were there. But I used to fix everything I saw like that every month as well. So you're just keeping a nice, clean house for them. Yeah.
No, the less roads they have to travel that are dead ends, the more.
Well, they also, I believe, trust your content more when you're looking after it like that. And you're publishing decent articles, you're not making 10 posts a week that are, 100 words long.
Yeah, no.
You're not supposed to do that? Right.
No.
115 words.
That might come under fluff content, Bill.
Search engine journals or search engine lands posts are what, 600 words each on average?
Those places, so you're not talking short articles. Most of those are informative, getting links. There's a lot of reasons why they don't have those issues.
The search engine journal people require 1,000-word minimum.
Right.
Even for like update issues, no?
What's an update issue?
Like, let's say you're posting like algorithm update. Check out this. Like
they do that internally by their own staff, and they're definitely over 1,000 words.
Okay.
Search engine land has the same sort of rules, right, Bill? They might do some fluffy articles internally, but externally they want quality, length, and
as long as they understand it.
Yeah, well, yeah, that was probably a bit of an issue there. I can imagine what you're writing. Yeah.
So when I get the search engine journal editor come back to me and say you need to get approval before we can work with your title for your article. I said, how many other people are writing about this? Or writing about a patent that's a week old? And you're going to yell at me because I'm going to write about a patent that's a week old? Are you a news organization or what?
No, they're Google's personal propaganda mill.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty well put. Yeah, that makes a lot.
Well, I've thought that for a long time. I mean, it wasn't a surprise to me when Danny went to work for Google. I mean, he'd been working for him and not getting paid for years.
Yeah.
They just formalized it and started paying him.
I saw some of the stuff they were doing and it took me by surprise. It's like we were getting press releases a week early from Google that are under embargo.
Whoa. Under embargo.
Yeah.
It means they can't write about them for a week, but they know about them a week early, right?
So they can share
They
it
were
with their...
giving, and they were only doing it for, well, as I understood it, just search engine land and nowhere else.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how fair that is.
I don't think they're about fair at all.
I don't think there's any desire to be fair there.
No. But I definitely, yeah, it's surprising. Well, it's not surprising, honestly. It's Google, but yeah, it could be done a lot better. Actually, you know what? They do a good job what they do. But I mean, wouldn't it be nice if we had 10 search engines that were just like Google that got equal amount of traffic, just a little bit different each?
No.
Not really. Did it in my early in my career. There's at least 5 search engines, Bill, back in the day that you had to worry about.
I remember doing ranking reports for 11 different search engines.
There you go.
Jeez. Here's your Excite report. Here's your Get Ask Jeeves report. Yeah.
Nobody had much more than about 20% of share of search, though. Except for Yahoo used to have a big piece of it.
Hmm. What do you think the highest number Bing ever got to?
Well, you can't tell because Bing was inflating their searches so badly the whole time.
Bing was copying Google from time to time.
Yeah, but also when it came
Which was
back,
fair because Google was copying Bing from time to time.
but it was also Bing was double counting queries, all kinds of nonsense stuff. That's why I never believed anything. I looked at my own and said, I don't care what anybody says. I've never seen a report where Google didn't have at least 80% share of the fucking traffic. So don't try and tell me there's big competitors to Google, because they're not. And now it's probably closer to 90% than it is to 88.
It's probably closer to 90%. Yeah.
Unless you got a big social media, really change that around some for some sites that got it right. Because by rights, you shouldn't be getting that much traffic from search engines. 80% of your traffic shouldn't be from search engines. I would like it to be about 50% from one.
Well, there are those invisible search engines like Amazon, where people go to search for products. They don't bother to search for in search engine.
Right.
Or they go to YouTube to search for videos.
Right. Yeah, YouTube is probably, with some people, more popular than Google. No, young people would rather, almost like watching TV, see an ad for it, than to go to Google and have to read something.
There are things
I have to read.
There are things I can find on YouTube I can't find on Google.
Oh, lots of stuff.
Like I need to replace a door handle for a door from the 1950s.
Clean my tankless hot water heater.
Yeah, that's why how to is the top category on YouTube. So how to do this, how to do that is the top category on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. I was looking at vacuum cleaners and comparing them the other day. And, I watched a lot of YouTube videos comparing different vacuums and why one was better than the other and how they're all changing.
I needed to pass the written California driving test last year. I watched videos on YouTube to learn how they ask the questions. Because you could read the driver's manual and learn all that stuff, but it's just a thick book.
You got to get a guy that
if
hits
you
the
learn
mic
the
button on
secrets
his
of how they
phone.
ask the questions.
Yeah.
When you get in the car, you put your mic on in your phone, put it in your pocket. Don't use it, and drive along. Listen to
Yeah. But you get asked about 30 questions and you get up to 6 wrong.
Yeah, it's
not a hard test.
I mean, when I took driver's ed, it was a for-profit driver's ed company, and he told me that he only failed one person, and it's because the guy told him to. I'm not going to say the words, a rude word to him, and that person failed. But that's it.
And no, they make too much money to pass people all the time in California.
Yeah,
there's like 35% or 40% failure rate for the driving part.
Yeah, also all the new laws that have come along since like people like myself have gotten their licenses, because cell phones were in briefcases back then. There were no laws about being on the phone or anything like that.
Yeah, you're not allowed to drive and answer a cell phone at the same time. If you're under 21, there's one law. If you're over 21, there's another law.
When I was
you're supposed to memorize all these things.
When I was 22, I was driving into Manhattan and I was on the phone with somebody get directions. And there was the toll person looked like a cop to me, and they pointed at me and screamed, "Get off the damn phone!" Right? They were very agitated, and so I had to hang up with the person I was getting directions from. And then they took a picture of me and my plate and said they were going to send it on to give me a fine. I was like, "Whoosh, yikes!" But nothing came of it. But apparently in New York, you weren't allowed to drive while talking on the phone at the same time at that time.
So I guess unfolding a paper map is illegal too, huh?
It's a lot safer.
while you're driving.
Stare and look for the town.
If it's not, it should be.
I mean,
probably.
Remember the days of getting like really lost? Like you'd go somewhere and somebody like I went somewhere and someone wrote the phone number incorrectly and the address. I drove around for 4 hours. I don't know how I got the right answer, but got there eventually. But with the web, you could just Google it.
It depends on where you're going.
Yeah, I was lucky. It was a community where I was knocking on the neighbor's door over and over again. So they finally were like, "Who are you looking for?"
You go to a place like La Jolla and you try to use Google Maps, forget it.
Doesn't work very well.
No. They've got a university in the center of town, and they put all these steel posts up in the middle of roadways. So you can't drive from one place to another.
Right.
And Google Maps doesn't have those steel posts in the middle of the roadways.
It tells you to fly by.
It tells you to take that road.
Oh, you'd think they'd catch on and maybe put no road.
Well, probably when they did the pass by, it was open and then it came up afterwards.
Wow. Yeah, that would, I mean, you
It's
can't
not
do much
like they
about
come by every week and take a new shot of the street.
No, but they have GPS. They track movements of cars. They should know nobody's going down the road. They're telling people.
all of a sudden people are turning here. Why? How come no one goes through?
All the Waze and Google Map data. Yeah, no car actually went down that road. They should have a thing like that. No car ever has traveled down this road.
They
in
do
60
have
days.
a thing like that.
They do?
They do. They bought it from ZipDash.
Oh, wow.
They spent millions on it. They should use it.
They couldn't have gotten that from their own system?
It was from somebody smarter than them at ZipDash.
Acquire.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes why spend the time trying to do it yourself? We can just buy someone else.
So ZipDash mapped areas where cars could not travel, but Google thought they could?
ZipDash is how Google Maps tells you there's a delay up ahead on the freeway. There's a 10-minute delay because all the GPS and all the cars are showing the cars slowing down for 10 minutes.
Yep. And it can do all the math, figure out that the vehicles will stay.
That's on signs in Ontario, at least. Tells you how long the wait is on the expressway.
Some states have that if we have a traffic jam or something like that.
You can also go to a place on the internet and watch the highway if you want.
That's fun.
They have cameras on the freeways, eh? That's how they know when there's accidents and stuff, and they can send somebody there to.
I like the China Russia way where they put it in the dash cam. You can watch that stuff. No. Instead of insurance or something, or further insurance.
Waze has a community aspect to it. You can say, "There's a speed trap on this highway at this sign." Mile 15.
I was visiting with my dad. I go, "There's roadkill. It's about to come up." He goes, "No way!" And I showed. His mind was like, it was amazing to watch him. He thought that was the most bizarre, strange. He's like, "Roadkill." Like, of all things, there it showed up.
Yeah, the 401 between Windsor, or like the U.S. and Toronto, is the busiest highway in the world.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Why is it so busy?
Because we only have one road for the whole. There's one going north and south, and one going east and west. Highway 1 goes from the East Coast all the way to the West Coast. You take the same highway.
So it's like Route 95 in the U.S.
Yep. Or there's another
sideways.
famous one, too, in the South. Route 66.
They closed that, though.
Goes from Washington, D.C. to California.
Yeah. That closed, though, right? They closed that down?
No.
Parts of it are still alive, but the
parts
whole
of it is still open. I've driven down it. I've driven down on the East Coast and driven down on the West Coast.
If you go down to what, like Louisiana around there, and you take a right?
I don't know. It's the way out of Washington, D.C., though.
Oh, okay. So it's D.C. Yeah, because like 95 I'm very familiar with, but
and 95 will get you to D.C. too.
Yep.
Yeah, that highway around in Toronto must be like 20 lanes wide.
Wow.
Oh, it's like there's just four lanes of collectors.
95 in some places is quite wide. I haven't driven the entire thing from all the way up to Maine down to the Keys, but I know when you get to the Keys, it's one lane. But
yeah, each one of those roads have shows on Discovery.
Really?
Highway Through Hell and 401 Rescue, I think, is the name of the other one. And all it is showing big wrecks on the highways.
Jeez. Yeah, there's a lot of if you type in China or Russian drive your fail into YouTube, you'll see some really, really bizarre, scary stuff because they have the cameras.
we've got some wide ones in San Diego.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
That points are like 9 lanes wide.
Yeah.
California is known for its traffic. LA has some of the busiest roads in the country, I'm sure.
I don't mind not being a commuter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I don't mind not going to LAX anymore. I went to use LAX one time and came back at 3 a.m, tried to drive home, and it was like being in the Fast and the Furious.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
I was the only one going under 80.
You're going through the terminals, so like, yeah, no, LAX has.
Oh, yeah, because normally those highways would be almost bumper to bumper, eh, Bill?
Yeah.
Through the day.
LAX is the only airport I know of that has a terminal that you have to take a 30-minute shuttle to once you get to the terminal. That's awesome. American Eagle something, and you get to where you think you're going, and then you got to take a 30-minute bus onto the tarmac, onto the plane. I don't know what they were thinking when they built this thing. It's Gate 51. Don't take it, please. It's terrible. But it's like the movie Speed, but awful, even worse.
We're at the top of the hour. It's 1:07. It went by quick.
It did. It went by real quickly. Not like the movie Speed. No.
Can't slow down, you blow up, huh?
Yeah, exactly. 55, stay alive. So should we end with like a tip for people? Something like that? I'll give them a tip for the week or something.
Take wooden nickels.
Do they still make those?
Probably somewhere.
If you can find them, I bet they're worth something. Okay.
Hopefully a nickel.
If you put structured data on your website, make sure it's available to show up on the front end of your website, meaning in text as well, unless it's very unique systems where you're referencing Wikipedia as a same as or a social media site, but you should still have that on there too.
I just put it in the head.
No, I'm saying like it should reflect. You shouldn't have words that are not on your site in structured data.
Nah, sorry. I don't think you're right. That it used to be like that, but I don't think it is now.
What do you think, Bill?
Things like invisible same as really break that.
Invisible same as I brought up, yeah. But like, what about the content, the words like?
It's supposed to be available as text on web pages. So
If you're saying you mentioned it on the page, yeah, I agree.
It's supposed to be in the bag of words on the web page.
Right.
And it's supposed to be in the structured data in your scripts.
So what if I see what you're saying. Yeah. I don't think
it's supposed to be consistent, where you're not showing something new in the structured data that you haven't shown on the web page.
For instance, but I can think of one.
I had one SEO firm near me. I was looking at their structured data to see how, or to their search results to see how consistent it was and how realistic it was, and they were showing a web page on their site that had 50 reviews of the SEO firm. And I went to the page that supposedly had 50 reviews and saw one.
So they put the aggregate, and then
they put the aggregate. Yeah.
But that's supposed to link to another page that has the actual reviews.
They were
getting away with it.
Inconsistent. They were getting away with it.
Yeah, that's a good point to bring that. I guess if you want to play dangerous, you can get away with that.
Well, okay, I can give you an example. For instance, the publisher on my personal website is International Website Builders. That's nowhere's on the page. However, International Web Builders is the publisher of that.
But I know, but so is the word people after. Like I get what you're saying. Like you're saying that you put the author as somebody else, but the publisher you put the author as the correct author, but you put the publisher as the company.
Yeah.
And you don't that's a good example.
The website is terryvanhorn.com.
Right.
But I'm saying the publisher is International Website Builders, which basically controls everything. I put everything through that company. So they're actually the publisher.
Yeah. That's a fair example.
So that's not on the page, right? And I also provide a logo from that from International Website Builders, which Google requests when you do that.
That's
It's
not on the site.
a requirement that you also include a logo.
But you don't use the logo from your site. You use the logo from International Website Publishers.
No, I use the logo for terryvanhorn.com on the site.
But that's visible, right? So that's fair.
And the copyright is owned by the site, but the publisher is another company, which that's common.
Yeah. No, I agree with you on that. I don't think you ever get in trouble.
I saw something that was really odd yesterday. Somebody's trying to sell an NFT.
Oh.
And they're trying to claim that by purchasing an early version of a work of Dune, an NFT that shows Dune, they're buying the copyright for Dune.
What? No, they're very confused.
No, they have no idea what copyright is or what it means.
Right.
They minted a picture of Dune, and then they said that means I own the copyright.
Yeah.
It works almost like a print. So on the back of a print, it says,
Are they still buying?
1 of 500. And they're just the same as prints, only in digital format.
But to own the copyright, you'd
It's
get
a
a lot of
scam.
money. You get a lot of income.
To own
coming
the
in.
copyright, you actually need to be the author.
Yeah, you'd be getting revenue from that movie or series. Sorry, whatever it is. Like, yeah, I'd rather have the copyright than the NFT.
Yeah.
But that sounds like, yeah, they're extremely confused. All that means by buying an NFT is that it's been proven that on the blockchain to be the original picture of whatever it is. It doesn't even.
I remember when Google started using structured data, right?
Yeah.
Then they didn't really support the JSON method, so you had to have it on the page.
Yep.
Right. But I thought once it was on the JSON, once they started supporting JSON, those words no longer had to appear on the page.
No.
Not all the words. Like your structured data shows key value pairs.
Right.
And sometimes the key part doesn't appear on the page.
Like person, schemas.
Like postal address for the address of a company.
Right. Right.
So they don't use postal address anymore. And they never have. But they've always required the actual address if it was going to be in a system that uses it like Google Maps.
Right. That's something I'm going to test, Bill, because now when you make a mistake in your stuff, they tell you right away, hey, you got a problem. You get a message from GSC saying, hey, go look.
So if you're not using schema, but if you're using a data wrapper that Google picks up on that shows a postal address, it needs to be in text. It can't be in a picture on an image.
Yeah, like from what I understand, any text that you represent as text inside structured data has to be represented as text, visible text on the page as well.
most things, not everything.
Yeah.
Right.
It
But, like,
doesn't work with invisible same as.
For
Yeah,
instance,
invisible same as is.
for instance, Google asks in a proper article that you put a modified date in there as well.
That's a good call. Yeah, you can put
Right.
published, modified.
Published date and modified date. Well, if it's not modified, the modified date is probably not on the website, or the original date is not on the website.
If it's
Because
published,
remember, with WordPress, you have to change the physical published date when you update, or it stays the same.
right, in the structure in the SERPs, you mean? Like if you don't change the actual published date, it'll show
No,
the
in
original.
WordPress,
Right.
right? When you can change the modification date.
Yeah.
You can modify the date,
Right.
right? But you can also just write the modified date in the
And
in
have
the
two dates,
schema.
right?
In the schema, and it would not be in the on the post.
Right.
See,
so
you can either have a published date or a modified date. It can't have both.
you can have both, but it will only show the published date. and
Not
the
by
structured date.
default with WordPress.
Well, like I've seen it quite a bit. But the solution I've seen is that you put the modified date on WordPress and then put the modified structured data in, so that it shows the actual modified date. And this post was updated on blah blah blah, and then
Then the published date is in there.
So
Yeah.
we get to close this,
Yeah.
guys. It's 17 after.